What's up, my people? A little Sunday night investing, economics talk, just to help you get through the evening. And there's something I want to talk about. This article. This is one of many economic topics I have on my mind. I felt like it needed to be addressed. So we have this Bloomberg article right here saying that Litecoin owners are holding the bag in the wake of the halving event, essentially just kind of taking a little shit on like people who own Litecoin right now. And the reason why I'm making this video is because I sold Litecoin just I'd say about a month ago. I called the top at a little over $140. And so I just wanted to kind of walk through and show you how I called the top. Like, basically I sold at the best time possible. And I just wanted to show you like my thought process, like how I was able to do that. And I also just wanted to make this video on my Mac because this is just cool technology. I know I'm like 5 years late, but here I am. So, this article, as I talked about, hype, bullshit, whatever, what was supposed to be a surefire way to drive up the cryptocurrency Litecoin's price is at risk of quickly turning into a liability. That's funny, man. Bloomberg, it's so funny the way that they do this stuff, man. It's so freaking funny. So what we're talking about here, this is a price chart of Litecoin and its history. If we go to year to date, we can see that it started out all the way down near 30, went up and peaked at just over 140, and that was on June 22nd, and now we're on around $95. If we go to the Litecoin block reward halving countdown, we'll see that the halving event takes place in 9 hours. It's actually a big deal. It's a big deal. And what is a halving anyway? A halving is essentially when the block reward gets cut in half. So a block reward is just in the process of mining. When you mine a block of Bitcoin or Litecoin, you get a little reward. And what is that reward specifically? That depends on the mining schedule. So Bitcoin and Litecoin are very similar. One of the main differences is Bitcoin has a total peak of 21 million coins in its entirety. Meanwhile, Litecoin, it's 84 million. And Litecoin also started a few months or a year after Bitcoin, something like that. But it follows the exact same halving schedule from its inception. And there's a lot of similarities. So anyway, we take a look at Bitcoin's halving schedule here. So this blue line is the production line. This shows the amount of Bitcoins that will ever exist by time period. So unfortunately, this line does not show the dates, but it doesn't really matter. We're about here just this week. 85% of all Bitcoins that will ever be created have been created, and so you can see that as time goes on, less and less Bitcoins get created. Like almost 50% were created within its first couple of years, and it slowly tapers off until the year like 2035 or around there is when the last one will be created. And the way that they're able to taper that production schedule is by having the block reward over time. So like when Bitcoin and Litecoin were first created, I'm just going to pick an arbitrary number. For Bitcoin, I believe it was like 50 Bitcoins were rewarded to the miner. Then it gets cut to 25. Then it gets cut to 12 and a half, which it currently is. Litecoin is going to be higher than that because there's 4 times the amount of Litecoins in production. But the long story short here is that the amount of Litecoins available reduces. And when you get that limited supply factor, in economic theory, it says that it should increase in price. I need to calm down, I'm like yelling. So when it's supposed to increase in price due to the halving, this article is like, people are like losing money. Like it's supposed to be a surefire way. Because, as I just said, in theory, when the halving comes, availability decreases, so price is supposed to go up. But you got to dig one level deeper than that. Like, that's so fucking lazy, that kind of analysis. Like, it's so lazy that you kind of deserve to lose your money. So take one further step. So, one question that you could ask is like, has Litecoin ever halved before in its past? Is this its first one? No. You find out that Litecoin has halved before in its past. You do a little bit of research, and you will find out that Litecoin had previously halved in 2015, in August of 2015. So, if we want to determine the peak price for this halving cycle, maybe we can go back in time and see what happened back then. So, if we go back to August of 2015, it was August 25th is the exact date when the halving occurred. You'll see something like very strange. Like the price peaked here and then dropped down on the actual halving date. So you can take a little estimate and say that almost a month and a half, almost 2 months, maybe mainly a month and a half, is when the price peaked prior to the halving. So then if we go back to our wonderful chart for now, you'll see that, what do you know, a little bit of a to-do here. About a month and a half, the price peaked. That's how I was able to call the Litecoin halving at 142. And, it was a pretty solid performance considering where I got in at. And so I just wanted to share that, just kind of add a few ideas in case you didn't know about halvings and cycle here and production. All this stuff is verified and verifiable through the open source nature of these cryptocurrencies. And that's that. If we look into the future, we'll say, when is the next halving for Bitcoin? That's coming up. I think it's early 2020. But I'll do a little search here just so we can all be sure. And so, with that said, we have 287 days. That means you have a lot of days to do your research, to get involved. While I'm here, I might as well talk just a little bit Bitcoin price. Just a little bit. I'm not trying to, I don't want to get too much in the weeds here. I'll do a little bit. Fuck it. We're at 11,149. This is crazy, man. This is absolutely freaking crazy. If we go to year-to-date performance, we'll see that it's done, phenomenally well. Just absolutely phenomenally well. And I'll be honest with you. I'll be dead-ass honest with you. I did not know that this giant peak, this $1,000 spike in a single day was coming. Caught me by surprise. I got in on this run-up because it's a parabolic movement. I got out once the parabola broke. I know you're probably like, what do you mean parabola? Like, that's a whole nother topic, another day. I suggest you look into Peter Brandt on Twitter. Peter Brandt, B-R-A-N-D-T. He's one of the oldest, most veteran traders, and he just dips his toes in crypto once in a while, and he shares a lot of good insights. But anyway, I got out here, and then the price just continues to rise. I even tweeted at this point that the price was going to break below 3K before the next halving event. All the technical indicators were showing this. Then what do you know? One of the fundamental drivers had a crazy change. What was that? What happened just around this time? Oh, July 31st was the last Federal Reserve open market committee meeting. What did they do? They decreased rates. Long story short, they increase the amount of money available in the economy, which is going to pour into stocks, will pour into real estate, commodities, even cryptocurrencies. When they bring in the easy money with the rate cuts, um, crypto goes up. Fact only. The only thing that was able to drive this price upward by $1,000 in one day back on April 1st, which I was watching the markets on this day, the only thing that was there was Donald Trump railing the Federal Reserve saying you need to decrease rates, and the Fed giving in and saying, oh yeah, like we're going to stop quantitative tightening. You should also look at quantitative tightening if you're not familiar, because that's over. If we go back in time to Bitcoin's peak price, this was also the week that the Fed announced quantitative tightening, and it's also the week that CME Bitcoin futures were launched, so you could short it effectively. And so essentially, if the Fed continues to cut rates, then Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, or like the valuable, useful cryptos, I should say, should continue going up in price. And lastly, it's like, will the Fed continue to cut rates? If you just look at comments by the Fed, you'll be like, no, they're not going to. No. Fed, although everyone at the Fed is like, we're not cutting rates anymore. This is just a one-off event. We can see if the money is where their mouth is. Excuse me. There are odds. This is pretty much like a Vegas odds maker for Fed rates. And so the Fed is like, no, we are. Fed's like, no, we're not going to continue to cut rates. In fact, we might raise. Might still be in a tightening period. But let's see if the Fed futures agree with that. Okay, so the current target rate is 200 basis points to 225 basis points. That means 2% to 2.25%. And so for the next Fed meeting on September 18th, ready for this? This is hilarious. The next Fed rate meeting on September 18th, the odds of the rate even being the same as zero. There's no chance, according to the futures, that the Fed doesn't cut. It's 100% the Fed will cut. It's great for every asset price, except for maybe gold. But the rest is wonderful for. If we even move into October, we'll see. Even more rate cuts are expected. December, even more rate cuts all the way into April. I mean, look at the numbers. Numbers don't lie. These Fed futures, they don't lie. But the comments by the Fed officials, I'm not going to say that they're lying. That's not what I'm trying to say at all. Like, they want to keep rates steady. They want to keep them up. But if you were unaware of economic theory and economic monetary policy, you cut rates when the economy is doing poorly. This does not bode well for the macro economy. It bodes well somewhat for asset prices like crypto, but for the greater economy and jobs and the job market and the housing market, it does not bode well. I'm not happy about this, despite me saying, oh, crypto prices might go up, whatever. And so that's it. That's all I had to say. Hype over Litecoin's having leaves owners holding the bag. These guys just held on for too long. No big dealio. And that's all I wanted to say, man. I'm trying to think if there's any other last-minute things that I'm going to be watching this week. It's all about the trade war. It's all about Trump and China, and now Mexico too. You know, unfortunately, we had the shootings in America this week. Don't want to really spend too much time talking about them. It's terrible. I pray for those families. And I pray that as a nation we can stay together and not be divided. We can have each other's backs, all of us. But that's enough. This is supposed to be an economics video. We need to watch the trade wars. Trump's a firecracker when it comes to tariffs. He can tank the price of the stock market just by sending out a tweet that we're gonna, place tariffs on China. And so that's what I'm watching. And have a great week, everybody. Peace out, and one love.